Jesse was on the show probably a month ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Okay.
That's right.
So Jesse was on the show talking about a complicated issue. And never before in 700 plus episodes of this show have I been so incredibly lit up like a Christmas tree on the internets for how badly the internet people said I blew the call. I just totally screwed up. And so Kelly and I talked, and I was like, dude, let's get Jesse back on the line. Because here's the deal. I get to hang up the phone, right? I hang up the phone, I finish the call, then I go into the next. And people who are on the show, they're just kind of there, right? Jesse, you're just like on the other end of the line when I hang up, right?
All right.
Yeah, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to, just let me have it if I need to if you just need to let me have it. I would love to know after the call, you hung up, what you felt, if you felt heard, if you felt seen, if you felt like I attacked you, and most importantly, how have the days been since? Are you still haunted by what you called me about?
Yeah. So I thought you gave some relevant advice. I took it to heart, as I do all advice, and then I make it my own, and I take it into my situation, my reality. And you had advised me to, apologize to my wife for feeling that, making her feel that part of her wasn't welcome in the home. And at the same time, to let her know that the things that she had said about her college past 20 years ago had bothered me, had made me feel a certain way. So I did that in some regard. I did take that advice and, spoke to her, about what I'd seen, and I let her know that I'm sure there's a reason she feels she can't talk to me about those things, and then shared it with some other people. And I told her I don't think that justifies you going and talking to other people. I don't appreciate it, and I don't appreciate the way it makes me feel. But I thought about a couple of things from our last conversation, Dr. John, about kind of had we had this conversation that she didn't speak that way, and I responded no, and then I got to thinking, yeah, we did. When we were standing on the aisle on our wedding day and promising to forsake all others and promising to cherish the other person, I considered that to be the conversation that we wouldn't have inappropriate conversations about our past, especially with people that, either of us spouses or partners knew that we were having. I told you in the last call, I knew she had a group of friends that were there during those days, and they talk about it, and it doesn't bother me a bit. But bringing it to these people that weren't there and are new people just felt totally inappropriate to me, and I still feel that way. I also got to thinking about, me feeling like she was tainted. I felt that way during the phone call, a way that I'd never felt before, and I felt that way for several days after. And then I thought, and I said, I don't feel that way. I don't feel like she's tainted at all. I love the day we got married. I love the beautiful, strong, sweet woman I got married to. She had a few partners in college, nothing outlandish like some of these text threads are saying, which is hurtful to me.
Sure.
To hear people speak like that about my beautiful wife, just because she did what 99% of other people did in college and have just a handful of partners that, I'm not happy about, but nobody is. You said that yourself.
Sure.
But she's not a tainted woman. I don't feel that way, but I do feel like her recent conversations have tainted our marriage. And not that it's irrevocable or irreversible, or maybe it is a little irreversible. Maybe it's always going to be a thorn in my foot that I'm going to have to walk with, as I will be married to this woman for the rest of my life. I know that. And I know that she is not cheating on me and not wishing that she had done other things. And we're inseparable. We had the greatest 20s and the greatest 30s. And as you said, we raised humans together, and great communication. And, you know, people get into their 40s, they get into a lull. And I do think that she found a new group of friends, and they had some work trips and had a little too much to drink. And she likes to get a rise and a joke out of people. And I get that. At the same time, it hurt. It hurt like, and I know some people, you know, say, hey, get over it, man. You know, everybody does that. And I am over the past. I am over it. To say that it doesn't, you know, have a little bit of a irritating feel of the past would be a foolish thing for any human being to say. Everybody's going to, as you said, you know, not love that their, you know, life partner had some experiences before them. I think any decent person is going to not like that. There may be some body count 100 people out there that say, get over it. They don't count. They're not in this conversation. The conversation I'm having is with my spouse, who has been the love of my life. And I know that I've been the same to her. Our 20s were the greatest. They were adventurous. I mean, I'm close with her friends, and they've just come to me with wows in the beginning, and I'm still close to them to this day. But the fact of the matter is, and what I'm calling about is I found some conversations that were hurtful and made me take a step back and realize that marriage is very challenging. Even when you seem to do everything right and everything feels right, and then you find out that for a year or two, your spouse is making some inappropriate jokes. Just a handful, you know, just a dozen. But you know, I just can't. To me, it hurts. Yeah. If it doesn't bother other people, you know, they can go live their life.
That's right.
But
so can I tell you? That was outstanding, and I'm really honored that you laid that out there that way. Well done.
Right.
It was well done. How did your conversation go with? Oh, and let me pause real quick for everybody listening. And you're like, what is he talking about? Maybe they missed the episode. Jesse called me, and there was Jesse had chosen to only sleep with the person he was going to be married to, and his wife didn't have that same value system when they got married, and then they have been inseparable since. And then Jesse found out that on a work trip with some friends, she was talking about her past. She was talking about it was the greatest time of her life, and it was when the good stuff happened and whatever. And Jesse, I took Jesse down a whole different path, right? And so that made people uncomfortable. And Jesse, I want to tell you, I didn't do a good enough job, I think, in that call of, I guess let me say it this way. I came into that call with a bias, and it's my personal bias. And I think it's because I get so many calls about partners who had different value sets before they were together, and somebody trying to hold them accountable for values that I let my own baggage come into this conversation. And what I didn't hear, because I was too blinded by my own bias, what I didn't hear was a guy saying, hey, dude, I really love my wife, but she hurt me. What do I do next?
Yeah.
And that's on me, man. And I want you to hear me say, I'm sorry that I missed that, because I had a hurting guy in front of me, and I chose to take something that I'm increasingly frustrated about culturally, and I made you the whipping boy for that. So I'm sorry.
Well, I appreciate the apology. I also think, you know, in your defense, me and you may have been headed to the Rocky Mountains, and we got on the train in the Great Plains, and we got to the next station, and we're like, hey, there's no mountains. We're just not there yet. I think the conversation ended prematurely, and maybe we would have got there once there was more
Well, how did the conversation go with your wife?
It went well. My biggest complaint today, and I guess the reason I'm back on the show, is because she did break down and apologize, wrote me a letter, realized she took our marriage for granted and didn't, said some inappropriate things, kind of, blamed it on, a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of wanting to get a rise out of some people. And we've had several conversations since. I mean, some of them have been productive, and some of them have been, maybe after a little too much alcohol again, and we just run in circles. But I'm just not getting the closure that I want to get to move on. I continue to wake up at night, and which is unusual for me. But for the last month or so, I just wake up every night, stare out the window, and because I can't seem to get the closure. Because one thing that I've heard you say before is, you have to come to these conversations willing to be vulnerable and willing to accept the fact that there's a chance that the other person will leave. I don't think we're in that conversation, but I don't feel like I'm getting the full vulnerability or the full admittance of guilt. Not that I want to shame her once again.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to say that again and again. But I need her to say, I've done this. This is why I did it. I don't know why she said those things other than a joke, and that doesn't seem like a justifiable. Does it seem like a justifiable, vulnerable comment that I can let it hurt me for just a moment and then know that we went there?
Is it because you know in your guts it wasn't a joke, or there was a little bit of truth to it? Or
yeah.
You said it so good. 20s were wheels off. 30s we had kids and built a life, and then 40s and they start to get stale. They get routine. People just get into the roles, and I'm wondering if you feel that too, and to hear her and to read it, how she articulated what she was feeling as a sense of regret, as a sense of the good old days, as a sense of this is just, I'm kind of, like, to use your train analogy, I'll just get dragged behind this train now. That's just the way my life is. But man, it used to be. And there's some sense of, I guess there's some sense of truth to it. And maybe you're not getting that.
There's truth in every joke. Even the worst of jokes.
That's right. That's why comedians, I think, they're modern day prophets, right? Because they make you laugh, but they're like, "Ooh, that's kind of true," right?
They tell more truth than anybody there is.
That's right. That's right.
And so I know that. Yeah, you're right. There's that little bit of truth to it is what's bothered me so bad, and the fact that she won't come out and say that.
Is she unwilling to admit that there's distance between y'all now? That happened before this. This kind of shined a light on it, but that we were kind of just running side by side, and it's time. You hear me say this on the show all the time. It's time to clear the deck. Let's build something new, man. We're in decade 3. Let's build something rad.
That's what I want. I want to knock down the building, but I feel like she won't admit that there is that little bit of truth in there because she's terrified of hurting me.
Gotcha.
And I told her that I want her to hurt me. The only way that I can get through this is to get that vulnerable, rock hard pain, so that I can know why she said it. Because you're right, there's a little bit of truth in there. I don't think there's been a distance here lately. I think there's been a lack of excitement, possibly.
Sure. And that happens, and it's you have to practice novelty and playfulness. Those things are hard, right? When you've been married to the same person for 20-something years.
But I can't get her to just fully admit to it. She's wrote me a letter, a couple of times, and now I've played my cards. Like, I don't get to bring it up again.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this. Can I challenge you on another thing on the other side?
Yeah.
Is there anything you're not bringing to the table? Or have you said out loud, I feel a distance and I want us to begin to build something new with our marriage?
It's very possible. I haven't been that clear, but I did bring vulnerability to the conversation.
Okay.
And
I'm proud of you for that.
I have since, changed my day-to-day conversations to be a little more open and a little less hiding. I mean, I'm no saint. I've made some mistakes in the last 5 or 7 years too that were, little one-off things you got to go ask forgiveness for. But,
sure, everybody has.
It was this pattern of a person I didn't recognize, and I was disappointed in the immaturity, and disappointed in just I mean.
So can I did not do this outright last time, so I want to give you permission to feel disappointed. I want you to have permission to feel unnerved because the person you've been married to for 2 decades, you saw some things that she had written and some things she had said, and that made you go, I don't think I know you.
Yeah.
That you have permission to be hurt. That it's not cool. Like what you said, like nobody wants their spouse to be talking about, man, I'm married to this person and they're great, but man, I used to. Nobody wants that. That's a violation of I'm going to say the sanctity of marriage. That's a violation of just dignity and respect for each other and what y'all have together.
Yeah,
So I don't want you to feel crazy.
No, I believe it was a betrayal.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it was these emotional affairs that people talk about. There's no one isolated person. There's been comments in the thread that this person so and so.
No. Hey, don't read, bro. Don't read those threads. Don't read those threads. They'll make you nuts. But let me posit one more thing. Okay. I've never met somebody in the criminal justice system. I've never met somebody on the other side. I've never met somebody on the other end of divorce. I've never met somebody when somebody does an accident or whatever, or commits a crime or has an accident and they lose a kid or what. I've never met that person who finally has that big conversation and it feels like they thought it was going to feel on the other side of that big conversation. And I'm wondering if that might be what you're wrestling with, which is let's take her at her word. She wrote you the letter. She drank too much. She was being stupid. They were one-upping each other, and she was like, "Oh yeah," and they called her goody two-shoes, and she was like, "You don't even know college me," and she told some stories about the good old days.
Yeah,
and that really hurt you. And she wrote you a letter and said, "You're my ride or die. I love you. That was stupid. I made some bad jokes, and I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Right. I don't know that what you anticipated the other end of that was going to feel like, but I've never met somebody who nails it.
I mean, I don't know either. And I've never been hurt like this before.
Well, and I guess what I want to not challenge you, but just speak out into existence is most of the time people still hurt after the apology.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't make what happened go away.
And I guess that's what's so frustrating for me and I don't mean anything as far as I want her to feel bad. But what I'm trying to say is like, the punishment doesn't fit the crime type thing. Like, okay, I got a letter and I'm just supposed to move on.
No, I think we circle back. I think it's, so I want you to stop thinking in terms of, like you said, like we're keeping score. Like my pain's got to be the same as your pain. And if I hurt this bad, you have to hurt that bad. That kind of score keeping, man, is always going to end in contempt. And that's one of the Gottman's 4 horsemen of the end of a relationship. Because it gets to be this hierarchy. You did this, so I get to do this. Forgiveness is, I'm not carrying that anymore. Still hurts. I lost a little bit of trust in you. if that's the case, I'm going to ask you to not drink on these trips because that was a betrayal for me. It hurt real bad. And I guess I also want you to be careful of putting yourself in her head and assuming you know how bad she's hurting or not hurting just by how she's responding. But also, dude, it is super okay to say, okay, it's been 2 weeks, it's been 3 weeks. You wrote me this amazing letter. I want to read it out loud to you. And I want to let you know how I feel when I read it. Like, I want to read it out loud to you. I don't want to do that. It would really mean the world to me if I could read this out loud to you. But also, yeah, be careful of wanting to hurt her back or wanting her to hurt back. And I guess be wary of your own expectation of what you think it's supposed to feel like on the other end of an apology. Sometimes it just still stings. And you forgive her and you say, okay, I get it. And it still stings. And the next time she's going to a trip out of town, your heart rate's going to go up. And you're going to text a little bit more. And she's going to commit, hey, I'm not going to drink on this trip. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because I know I hurt you last time. And I guess part of that is just trusting in, if you keep showing up and saying, how can I love you today? And she keeps showing up and saying, hey, Jesse, how can I love you today? That over time, that pain stings a lot less. And your default setting slowly resets itself. But you're not crazy for being hurt. I don't think you're crazy at all. I just want you to be careful about pushing and pushing and pushing to make sure she feels in some way as bad as you do. Or like you said, she can't just get off scot-free with an apology. I want you to think that all the way through because that makes you the judge, the jury, and the executioner, and be real clear about what you want her to experience on the other end, and you may never get that. And I think that's part of being married. It's part of being in a relationship with somebody. So thank you so much for the call. I'll put you on hold. It's like the background noise is really loud. I want to say this to everybody. I brought my own bias to that last call. I brought my own frustration with outside issues, and I dumped them, all those cinder blocks into Jesse's backpack and said, brother, you're carrying this. I did hear in that last call that there was this feeling, this sense of I made better choices than she did. And so somehow there was an inequity. So I'm glad you said, like, man, I hadn't thought about that. I'm glad we got to have that conversation. But also, I want everyone to hear, I brought my issues to a hurting person. And Jesse, that's not right. And so on behalf of everybody, I want to tell you, I'm sorry. I missed it. And man, you're allowed to have your heart broken. And I'd be heartbroken too if my wife was telling everybody, man, before I met my husband, it was really awesome. I'd be heartbroken, man, as a betrayal. I think the big question is, what does forgiveness look like? And in your home, what does forgiveness feel like? And most importantly, beyond looks and feelings, what are we going to commit to doing day in and day out, minute by minute, hour by hour, so that our marriage gets stronger and back on track over time? You're an awesome guy, brother. Thanks for calling me back and having the courage to let me know where I got it right and where I didn't get it right. And took a lot of courage for you to come back on. So I'm really, really grateful for you, brother. But I think y'all set up another meeting and you read that letter back gently, not in an accusational way, but gently. And let's get back on the same page and we're going to still keep moving forward.